Okay, everybody, it's your girl Jocelyn, and I'm back again with some authentic conversation. And we have someone very special coming today. Um, we are going to give it a second because I'm pretty sure he is about to chime in, and there he is, right on time. Um, Please, everybody, understand that this is just some authentic conversation, down to earth. Um, Interaction with an amazing cinematographer who I had the pleasure to meet last year at the Las Vegas Black Film Festival. So we're going to go ahead and bring him on and just enjoy his company, get a little bit of insight. He's not going to give you too much, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It should be, live. Hello,
Hi,
Ty.
good
How
evening.
are
How are you?
you? I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Most definitely. So I want everybody to know a little bit about your background, who Tyre Mills is, and just some insight of your experience. A little recap on the Las Vegas Black Film Festival, where I had the pleasure to meet you at personally myself and interact with you in your amazing seminar. So if you can go ahead and tell the people who Mr. Mills is and just start off with our first formal introduction and how you got involved with Miss Michelle, which is the founder of the Las Vegas Black Film Festival. Amazing queen.
Definitely.
And then we'll bring
Yes.
everybody up to par.
Okay. Well, let's see how so you want me to start with kind of like my own background?
Yes.
Okay. Um, well, for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Tyre Mills. I'm a cinematographer, director of photography, filmmaker all around. But I'm supported by a great team, Writer for Life Films, that has really helped me grow into the cinematographer that I am. I cannot say that I would be where I'm at or that my skills or my level that I'm at now, and I say that in the most humble way, it wouldn't be there without my team, because they push me, we push each other, we push each other's buttons too. But they're a huge reason why I am where I am and why I push myself to do what I do. Miss Michelle on various occasions has called me a master, but I don't embrace that title in any way, shape, or form. I consider myself a student because I'm always like studying this craft, and I have to remain a student in order to be, the way I am, because I'm just constantly curious, about why cinematography is the way it is. It's something that I feel like I've always kind of consciously noticed, and I've watched movies in other ways that other people haven't, and I notice things. And sometimes in the past, when I was younger, people would just be like, "Why can't you just watch the movie? Why are you looking at that? Why are you looking at it this way?" And it's just something that I kind of grew to have probably from a young age that I didn't even realize I was doing. So, and then kind of turning the corner into how I got into this. I kind of always knew that I loved film since like 16, but I went to college at Cal State Northridge. I chose not to pursue it, so I actually majored in something entirely different, and I didn't study film at all. Then I had a major life epiphany after some just very depressing times. I won't go into too much of that, but basically when I hit rock bottom at one point, and I was like, "There's nowhere else to look but up." Everything in my life was in shambles, and I was like, it just hit me kind of like a hunch, like, I need to go get me a camera. And I don't know why, because outside of this, I also do photography too, but I love the film aspect, and I was always thinking in terms of just making film, whether it be 1 minute clips or full blown movies. And I just was so fascinated with it that at that period in time, it was towards the end of my college career, I cut off social life, uh, no girlfriends, nothing. When I came home from work, I was simply studying film, just nonstop for years.
Wow.
Like,
So it's more like you created a recovery for yourself.
I think, yeah, I kind of like really discovered this within that epiphany. And from then on, I just, prayed for bigger things to come. Before I even got to this point, I didn't even know if I could make a movie. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could make a short film. I didn't really care about the quality of it. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could make a film. And then, I have to thank my team. My director, JT Thompson, actually, provided me with an opportunity to stretch myself. Before I had ever even really made a successful short film, I was offered and put in a position to shoot my first feature film. And I didn't even know what I had signed up for, but I knew everything that I had, practiced and studied and put into play, for those years leading up to that moment had prepared me, so it's just something that I do because I'm like, super fascinated by it. And I know that it's a calling because I've actually been reduced to certain points in life where I thought about quitting numerous times, and it always came back to me,
So
and then also
you
my team members won't.
you just decided to reclaim your power. That's what that was.
Definitely.
You reclaimed your power, and that is a beautiful thing, because people that are watching this, if they really heard what you said, you're what, 31, I believe?
32.
32, okay, excuse me. You have no schooling in photography, none, and you are self-taught, and you took your experience in life and you dug into every portion of your energy and reclaimed your victory, and you put yourself out there to do what you had a gift to do that was obviously naturally installed in you, and you just had to live it. That I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Ty, how, and of course, we're going to ask you a couple of different questions about your journey and everything.
Definitely.
I know that you and I had met last year at the Las Vegas Black Film Festival during your seminar, which I had a beautiful time being a part of. And I learned things at 50 doing still photography from this young man. I'm super impressed with the entire setup of the seminar and different information that you and Miss Michelle shared with many of us. How did you get involved in the Las Vegas Black Film Festival, and how exactly did you and Miss Michelle meet?
How did me and Miss Michelle meet? Well, it's interesting. Miss Michelle was actually in my first feature film, The Council. I showed you guys a clip of it in the Las Vegas Black Film Festival last year during the class. And interestingly enough, I didn't actually know Miss Michelle that well until we had our scene. We had a scene. It was an emotional scene. We both had to cry in that scene. And it was at the end of a very long day. And that's how I met Miss Michelle. Miss Michelle was already familiar with my team because they had been to the Las Vegas Black Film Festival before. We've had other films that have made it into there before and done well. And we really enjoy Miss Michelle's festival. We really enjoy the hospitality. Like, when you come to her festival, it's a different feel. I told Miss Michelle last time we talked on the phone, like, now, I brought my family out one year, or that year. You met my family last year.
Right. Yes, I did.
We didn't even have a film in there yet. We enjoyed it. And now I told her, like, everybody in my family is like, hey, when are we going to Vegas again? Like, almost like a yearly holiday, like you look forward to Christmas coming or something, and I can't say that about a lot of festivals, not to put anybody else down or anything, but like when you go to Miss Michelle's festival, it's just, it's like welcoming. It's like, when you go to a family reunion, you say, hey, I'm here, and you get to meet new people, but at the same time, it's like, you're home, you enjoy the vibe there. Everybody feels celebrated. It's authentic. but at the same time, you feel that environment of everybody pushing each other to do better, you know, and, you know, we're not here to just celebrate each other and BS. We're actually here to celebrate great work, you know, great work amongst Black creatives, Black artists, not to exclude anybody else, but, you know, celebrating our people is something that we have a hard time doing just in society today in general. So I think that's one of the best parts about, you know, Las Vegas Black Film Festival. And, you know, shout out to Miss Michelle for making it 10 years, you know.
10 years, yes. She's coming up on her 10th year this year in April 20th to the 23rd, right? Yes. If you guys are not familiar with it, make sure you try to show up, support, follow her, do anything that you can do, because what she's doing for the community in general, she's believing in people, and she has so much to offer many of us, many of us. You hear them. She is amazing. This lady is, she's a screenwriter. What else does she do? Production, direction, and an actress. She's just multi-talented. I love her.
Screenwriter. She lights. She does what I do, the cinematography. And I've seen in her films, like, her apply actual methods similar to the things that I was teaching last year. So, you know, she knows her stuff. She didn't just pick up the camera and, you know, start pressing record. Like, she actually knows what she's doing. And that's
well, what impressed me the other day, Ty, is when I came onto one of her lives where you and her were interacting in a conversation. It was so impressive to me that she mentioned the fact that you have taught her some stuff. Do you recall her saying that?
I do.
And
I do.
I'm listening and I'm like, wow, you know, to get a shout out like that from somebody like Miss Michelle had to be amazing. Tell us how that felt.
It's quite an honor. It's quite an honor. Actually, continuing on too from what you asked, how I actually ended up there was we interviewed Miss Michelle on my team's podcast, and after that, you know, she had asked me would I come and teach a class, and it was just kind of like out of nowhere, and I was like, and then she kept telling me like she had seen all my work and she thought I was a master at this. She says that all the time, and I only say that to say, you know, I can't embrace that name just because I feel like it, or that title, because I feel like it when you say you're a master, you kind of, you know, put a lid on yourself, and I'm like, I'm a student. I have to continue rising above every level, and you know, the same way that you all have said you learn from me, you know, I learn from others. That's how I got here. So, you know, I'm just the next messenger, you know, passing information down to y'all from what I've learned from others. And, you know, I just hope to give it to y'all in a way that, or give it to everybody else in a way that they can understand it, because a lot of times this stuff is not easily dissected. But getting back to your point, no, it definitely felt good because, you know, Miss Michelle, you know, I have a high respect for everything that she's done. You know, I've been to Vegas. I've been to her festival quite a few times, and, you know, I enjoyed it. I went one year during COVID when it wasn't the same, but the funny thing is, even during COVID when there were less people, it still was a heck of an experience for me. And so I'm like, well, if this is what it's like during COVID, everybody's wearing masks and most people are watching online, I can only imagine, you know, what it's going to be like when, you know, this thing is lifted and we're all back to it. So, you know, it was great. And like I said, I just hope to bring to you guys more this year. I know so many of y'all enjoyed it last year, and you told me, but I'm telling you, I felt like last year when I had to conclude, I really felt like I had sold y'all short. Like, I had so much more to bring y'all.
Well, sometimes we'll do something for the first time, and then we'll do it again. And the more we do it, the more we end up bringing. So you look at it as another journey for yourself and for other people who interact with you, because we get pieces of you, but we don't get everything in one lump. So it makes us want to come back and get some more. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like you're getting a meal, and there's a piece of cake there, and you got a little full today, and you can take that cake home and hold on and eat a piece later, you're still going to get something out of it.
Right.
And it's going to taste good.
Right. Right.
And that's what you're doing. And for me, the interaction with you was more than just an experience. It was a transformation of energy. You know, when we all were in that room, that was a very powerful moment. And some people won't understand it and some people will. But we have to understand that the transformation of information that you're giving us is through the eyes of someone who looks in the lens of a living object that we use to create photographs and images, and we bring that lively image to life. Without that, what do we have? Just like we're on this live now, you know. So the respect is definitely there, and at your age, you took it upon yourself to, again, self-teach. So that's the part I want to ask about. How difficult was it to self-teach yourself to become a cinematographer? Excuse me.
Starting from square one, it's as difficult as, you know, I'd say like learning another language, because I don't know if you all remember, for those who were watching from last year, one of the first things I stated in the workshop is that learning how cameras work and how they move is a language, and you're speaking that language to the audience, and that's what they're translating, you know, when they're watching your movie. So it's like learning a whole new language, and it was difficult because when I started, I didn't know that I wanted to do cinematography, because I didn't really know what cinematography was. I just liked nice, you know, film clips and scenes, and I didn't know it was called cinematography until I had worked on some other people's sets, and I was just observing things that they were doing. Then I had been in somebody's short film, and I just remember that like there were scenes they were shooting, and I felt like in my heart they weren't shooting them as efficiently as they could. So like this short film I actually acted in, the person who was the cinematographer, I actually like stepped out of the acting and suggested shots that he could get to try to help make it better. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. But when it comes to studying and learning the craft, it's a lot of trial and error. And it's a lot of like, it can almost sound like it's like a loner's type of craft, or when you think like an athlete who spends time in the gym, you know, shooting, or, you know, those hours where nobody else is there. I would take my camera out sometimes when it was like hot in the summer. I'd go out like, you know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to like downtown LA just to get some nice shots of the city, or go to like the beach, or go to places where there's nice scenery and shoot stuff, or try to put sequences together, and or look at scenes from movies and attempt to like mimic the lighting, or mimic, you know, some way it was shot, or look at different meanings in film theory and why directors chose shots that they chose, and what are they trying to say, and what are they trying to get across. And then I think the hardest part about it, that even now is still a challenge for me, even as I teach people in the class, one of the hardest things to do is to learn how to tell even more powerful stories without people speaking, because everybody shoots a movie and, you know, is excited about the dialogue and what the hero and the characters are going to say. Hearing them say something heroically clever, or having them show their personality through what they say. But what about what they don't say? You know, what about
something like still photo, like taking the still images and creating a visionary story off of the image?
That's possible. That's possible. I mean, that's like storyboarding. So, and when I'm thinking about creating sequences for scenes, a lot of times it is kind of in still photos, or at least the coverages are. So I'm looking at, I think a lot of times now I'm looking at like people's reactions and their demeanor more than I am their words. And that's something I picked up from my director as well too. So, you know, it's it's just something that like you continue to sharpen, as you go about it. And I attempt to shoot something on different cameras now. Before, I used to be really obsessed with what camera I have, but now I realize it really doesn't matter, because when people are watching something on the TV screen, nobody ever asks what kind of camera it was shot on. We just tend to think about that when it comes to indie filmmakers. People are always asking, like, what camera did you use? But you'd be surprised, there's a lot of stuff out there that was shot on like iPhones and nobody can tell the difference.
Right. So what steps would a person have to take, learning steps, to get into cinematography?
I would say first start with what you have. Everyone, for the most part, has a phone. Take your phone and study the most basic shots. So I'll give just one sneak peek from the workshop that I'll talk about, because it's the basis of it. Kind of what you want to start out understanding any scene can be covered in is a wide shot, a medium shot, and a tight shot. So if you can film a scene, I would say, like, if you can write up a little scene, write up a one-page scene of just two people talking, and then try to do the same scene with two people talking and walking. Then maybe try to do the same scene with two people, riding in a car or in different places, just so you can get a feel of how you'd be shooting in different places. Cover the scene from a wide shot, which is usually shot from the side, and it covers the entire area. You see both characters from head to toe in the shot. It shows a lot of the environment. Medium shots, you want one of each character from about the waist up, and then tight shots are usually about from the neck up. Pretty much any scene, if you're not sure, what you're doing, and you just need to cover it, you can start there. Always start wide, medium, tight. That's the terminology you use. But wide shot, two mediums, two tights, and you're good to go. And I would say place yourself in situations of difficulty. So look for places to shoot that are difficult to shoot and go shoot there, and then just see what inspiration pops into your mind. Like for me, especially, sometimes I may be the only one doing what I'm doing, right?
Okay.
On the set. So if I'm the only one and I have a very, very dark environment that I need to light up, even if I don't have enough lights to light up the whole environment, then I start thinking about, okay, what's next? Maybe, okay, the most important thing is not the environment, then it's the character. So I need to light up the character. Or do I need to show a part of the scene? So if I need to show part of the scene, then I need to show the character. I need to light up the character and the area where the character is walking.
So you have different sections. So you go into one area, light it up, keep the other section the same color, and then go into the other area and light that up too?
Right.
What does that do?
Well, so lighting is kind of like, it's kind of like when you think of photography is a lot about where you want the viewer to look. So you're really directing where you want their eye to look in the frame. So if you look at the frame I'm in right now, there's a light over here to my right. That might draw your attention, it might not, if I wasn't sitting here, or there's not much going on over here. You look at when scenes are cutting, you're looking at a lot of times like where your eye is directed. That's how people miss things in movies sometimes. When it comes to like sequels and stuff, and they show you when they show like flashbacks and clues of things that people miss, that happens because your attention might have been directed over here when there was something over here that you were supposed to look at, but they only show you the clip for like 2 or 3 seconds. So you're going to look here and you're going to miss what's here by the time they cut away. I feel like I'm getting like,
I can't, it's just so freaking captivating to listen to you speak with so much knowledge. And you said you only been doing this for what, 7, 8 years?
Going on going on about 8 years. Yeah.
Self- Self-taught. Wow.
I
How
man,
many cameras do you work with? I can imagine.
well, so on set, I mean, always one, but now I attempt to work with two as often as I can. Um, the more cameras you work with, the more it cuts down on the amount of time it takes to shoot a scene, and then also the more it keeps your scenes congruent because the less takes you have. So if you cover a take from 3 different angles, you don't have to worry about when you cut away in editing, was everything congruent or the same? Because sometimes, you may have a character looking slightly this way in one shot, and then the next shot they're looking like this. So when you cut away, it's going to look weird, versus if you have it covered in multiple angles, everything's the same. So I've always pushed for using 2 cameras. I remember I used to frustrate my team when I first started because I pushed them to get 2 cameras, and it was before. I mean, a lot of us, we had to kind of grow to this point. We grew our progression through the years, but I like to push 2 cameras. I mean, I love to do 3 or more at any given point in time, but always 2 cameras.
What's your favorite camera to shoot with? Do you have a
Uh,
particular camera?
I mean, as of right now, I'd say it's the Blackmagic 6K. So I don't think that I've used my favorite camera to shoot with yet, because there are some cameras out there I haven't even used yet.
Mm.
I would love to one day use an Arri Alexa. That's like what I would view as like the greatest camera out there. But as I get more and more into this, we all love cameras because it's a cool electronic gadget to play with. But at the same time, like, I'm noticing more and more as we practice that, you know, I'm almost completely detaching myself from cameras. And I'm only kind of leeching on to what they can do for me, not so much the camera. Because that's one of the things I teach, or I think I mentioned to you guys last year as well, too, that the camera is really just a tool. And to people who aren't trained to think about film the way that it's consumed, we tend to look at cameras and we look at how they're set up when you see a cameraman holding his camera, and so you think that all that stuff is required, when in actuality a lot of it is just tools to kind of make your life easier. But you can achieve Hollywood like results based on worrying about the other factors that are important, lighting, staging, production design. And once you kind of realize that, the camera becomes less and less important. I mean, it is definitely important. I love using Blackmagic. I love using, great quality cameras. But if I was forced to only shoot like on my phone or something, we would use the same principles of lighting, the same principles of production design, the same principles of directing, cinematography, and we may not be able to get exactly, what an Arri or a Blackmagic could do, but we could get, I'm willing to say we could get about 80% close.
I've started noticing that a lot of people. I just did a couple of award shows, and a lot of the cameramen that were there were using their phones, and they were using tablets. And I just see it the way you see it as well. A lot of people look at the cameras and all the big, because I was one of those people, like, I want this big old nice camera that has all these gadgets and things like that on it. When
fires and the big boy toys.
Yeah. And I'm like, it doesn't take a big boy toy to get the final product that you're looking for.
Right.
And I'm learning that myself too.
Also,
thanks to Ty.
If I may add, I'm sorry not to cut you off there. If I may add, sometimes I find conflict within myself there too, because there are a lot of things that I would want to add to my camera at times, and I have to remind myself like how I'm attempting to move. Because one thing that a lot of people don't realize about when you see those setups, the more stuff that you add to your camera, like when you make it look like how you see on Hollywood sets with all those wires and all those pieces on there, the more you add to those rigs, the slower you actually move, and you make your set move slower too, because the more that you add on there, it's like adding weight. The heavier something is, the slower it's gonna, you're gonna be moving it. And
Wow, really, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, essentially,
That's interesting.
there are a lot of things that you don't necessarily need to attach to your camera. You just can, and it depends on your style of shooting. And a lot of people move the way they do because, I'm not, no disrespect to film schools, but film schools kind of teach you this one-dimensional way of shooting things. And I think that was the blessing in disguise from God of how I learned how to do this, because I didn't go to film school, so I didn't get kind of like influenced on the way that they teach things. Because the first set I even worked on too, their cinematographer and their cameramen were just kind of shooting in, I don't want to say like this very slow manner, but they could have gotten so much more done than they did. And like the first short film I worked on, I won't mention his names. I don't want to, out of respect to them, they did do a heck of a job, but I think they spent somewhere upwards of like $22,000 on it. And it was like a 12-minute film.
Really?
It was a 12-minute that took 14 days to shoot, and it didn't make any sense. And for it to be 12 minutes long, I mean, they had to cut out more than 70% of the stuff that they shot. And it's just like, they were moving so slow on set. I mean, it felt like we maybe shot like one scene per day. And, there's just a lot of things that, like, I don't want to say you can skimp on, but a lot of things that, like, aren't required that people are doing. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, are you being effective? That's why the workshop is called Effective Through the Lens. Like, are you being effective? Because it's like, you can pull out a bazooka or a tank, but if you can't hit the target, then what good is having a big gun?
Ooh, okay now. You heard what he said? He said big gun. Wow. That is so interesting. I know I had a couple of people, Ty, that wanted to ask a question. They Mr. Greg Grimes and Mr. Sean D and a few other people had a list of cameras here and wanted to ask your opinion on these sort of cameras and their usage, if they were valuable and worthy. The Canon EOS R6, I believe Mark II.
Mark II.
Yes. Panasonic Lumix.
Yeah.
Lunix, sorry.
I think.
The Canon EOS R7 and the Sony ZV E10.
So they want to know, like, what is my opinion on them, or?
Right.
Okay, so I've heard bits and pieces about them. I've heard more about the Canon one. So, I mean, I guess it would depend on what they're looking to do with it, because I haven't looked at a new camera particularly in a while. So when I'm not, I tend to ignore them, because you can get lost in camera reviews. Like, it's like
yes, I do all the time.
see, like, new camera hype is almost the same thing as like new cell phone hype. Every single year they come out with a new phone, but most phones still do about 99.9% of the same things that the previous phone did. They just added like some tiny little feature so that they can say this one's better. In terms of, okay, so I put it this way, since we're talking about film and movies, I'll speak from that perspective. The camera that I use personally, that's mine, is a Sony A7 III. That came long before those, so these new ones that you mentioned are,
yeah, I was gonna say, of course.
years in advance. But I'll give you perspective so they can kind of make a better decision. I chose mine because outside of film, I also do photography, and I looked for a camera that had great all-around features. So it's great in photography and film. If you are looking for a camera that is going to simply get you the best results film-wise, then I would just look into a cinema camera straight up. So nothing wrong with those cameras, but if you're looking for film and you want like straight on movie look. You know, like something you would see in a theater, or, you know, HBO, Marvel, something like that. You know, it's going to be your Blackmagic, Red cameras, Arri Alexa. You know, Sony has film cameras as well. Panasonic has film cameras as well. Not too knowledgeable about their models, but I know, like, you can never really go wrong with a Blackmagic. And I think they're like the most affordable. And there's a lot of shows that can vouch for it. You know, if you're familiar with the show All American, that's shot on a Blackmagic. You know.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with the show Breaking Bad. It's on Netflix. It was a show about the chemistry teacher turned drug dealer. Anyway, they shot that on a Red Epic. A lot of shows are shot on like Arri Alexas and whatnot, but you'd be surprised how many are shot. Because I worked on as background on Good Girls before, and they were shooting that on a Sony. So,
wow.
You know, and then my personal camera, here at my team, we shot multiple web series. We shot some films on it, and you know, that's a Sony A7 III. I mean, that camera is, I've had that since, I want to say, like 2018, 2017. You know, we've shot web series.
And you still work with that camera?
Still, that's my go-to.
Wow, you guys hear that? He's still 2018, and his camera's still doing him justice.
It's kind of like, I mean, so I'm attempting to I want to give him as much insight as I can, because when you look at a camera, it's kind of like I said, looking at cell phones, or looking at like a new car per se. I mean, there's going to be a new car coming out every single year, but all cars do the same. And they have a steering wheel and 4 tires. And so it's kind of like, look for the camera that has the features that are necessary for what you want to do. And in order to do that, you have to identify what it takes to pull off what you want to do. So that way, you know, like if you're shooting horror movies, then you're going to probably need a camera that's good in low light, because in horror movies, there are a lot of dark scenes. So you would look for a camera that has better low light capabilities. Now, that camera might lack in photography and video area, but you know, you're getting it for the purpose of what you're doing. And that's really what, like, I'm going to talk about that in the workshop too. Like, people have to understand that, get a camera that's for the purpose of what you're doing, because there's no, it's kind of like, I guess when I was a little kid and we used to play more violent video games, people was always like, what's the best gun? And I'm like, well, there is really no best gun. It's like, the best gun is whatever, you know, if you're shooting at somebody who's 2 miles away,
okay,
you know,
you're still gonna get shot.
So really just picking the best tool for what it is you're looking to do. And that really simplifies a lot of things there. And if you're an all-around person, you can still shoot movies without a cinema camera. So definitely don't think that you need to go cinema camera for movies. But that's if you know that that's specifically what you're going for. If you want to do other things, you know, like I said, we've shot multiple web series and films on my personal, you know, Sony A7 III. And, you know, in the most humblest way, you know, we've got plenty of awards from those. And then not only that, people have asked, like, what are we shooting on? They had no idea that we shot it on a consumer level camera. So it's more about like what you know, how you light, production design, you know, everything outside of the camera.
So what is your best type of films to shoot? Like, do you like shooting more in black and white or color, or it's just, you're just equal?
So like what type of film or genre? Well, I will say that I like action. I like suspense. I like I can't say I have a favorite. I mean, I love horror. I love to watch horror films. I haven't made too many, but I you know, I would say that I enjoy that. I would say I enjoy action. I would say I enjoy just things that have, if I could get out of genre, I'd say I enjoy anything that has a deeper message than just what the words are on the page, because that way it gives me something to play with when I'm, either composing shots or looking to set up an environment. So like simple things, that relate to characters. Like if a character is associated with a certain color or a certain symbol, or if they're from a certain place, so they might talk a certain way or move a certain way. So these are all things just like an actor, analyzing a character in the script. This for me is, I can analyze how to shoot them or how to make them look throughout the movie. So I think for me, that's what I look at more so than genre. Just I like things with deep messages. I like Easter eggs. So
You like Easter eggs?
yeah. For those who don't know, Easter eggs in film, that's like, hidden messages in the background, or it could be something that the character's wearing that communicates a message they're not going to say.
Right.
Just Easter eggs are always fun.
What is your most memorable experience when shooting your first film? Take us to that moment when you shot your first film. How did it feel?
Honestly, I was scared as hell. I was very, at the time, I had to grow out of it, and I, this is where I thank my team a lot for having patience with me, because I prepared as much as I could, and then I realized that like you can never be too prepared for a movie, because Murphy's Law hits, whatever can go wrong will, and you have to find a way to continue to smile through it and realize that everybody's going through it. Everybody might be hungry, everybody might be freezing cold or super hot. And so the time that was most memorable for me, I can't say any one particular moment. I mean, if any, I would say, like, I remember the last day of the last take, I was on my knees and I was getting a shot on the ground of a car driving away. And I remember when they called cut and they said that was a wrap on the movie. And that was kind of a deep moment for me, I guess, because I was like, man, I couldn't believe like I actually shot a whole movie. And,
did you die?
Me up, so.
Did you die in the movie?
No, I didn't die in the movie.
Oh.
No.
So what movie was that?
That movie was The Council. So The Council, it's currently streaming on Apple TV, Tubi, and Amazon Prime. It's a crime drama, and it's really something that, like, not just our community but the world needed, and still needs to this day. To really instill hope into people and instill that initiative into people to take ownership for not just their environment but their community around them. And I love that movie. I mean, I was honored to be able to shoot that as my first film, and that was also why I was really, I won't say fearful, but I was really scared as hell, because it's one of those things where, like, when you get the script, you see how great of a piece of work this is, and I mean, excuse my language, but you're reading it and you're just like, man, I really cannot afford to fuck this up. So, and I only say that to say, like, that's literally what was going through my mind. Like, okay, like, zone in, focus, like, and I mean, so because part of that film I fasted through, I had to really focus in because it was such a good script. Shout out to DeGrio, who wrote it, as well as the rest of my team who helped, everybody, who produced it, everybody at Rider for Life Films. It was a task to produce that movie, and it was something that we definitely all wanted to see done the correct way, because when you have something that has a message that deep, you don't want to mess it up. So
right.
That was why I was so scared, I'd say, at the time.
I can't wait to see it. You guys, we all have to support this film. He said it was Apple TV, Amazon Prime,
Apple TV, Tubi, and Amazon.
Oh, he's streaming all over the place. So we definitely got to show him some love and support on that. You know, it's important when we support each other because this is not easy. You know, people see people smiling and working and grinding, and then they don't understand what the tasks that are taken in between time of those smiles and those happy posts and things like that. There's a lot of work that is done behind what is projected to the world, and people need to know how great they are, whether we tell them or not. When we support them by just downloading or what $5.99 to buy the movie, or I don't know what it might cost or whatever,
Right.
just chiming in and saying something, or just saying, I looked at it, I supported you, I was there. That helps people like Mr. Mills.
And I appreciate it.
We elevate each other.
Creators appreciate it. I appreciate you so much, Lynn, for just not just having me on here, but I mean last year, you know, being very supportive, because that was my first time actually teaching a class like that too. So the fact that, you know, you were very supportive, Miss Michelle was very supportive, and I'm just glad, you know, to be able to share. I mean, because it's not my knowledge. I don't own this stuff. It's just, you know, I just want to impart and help other people, you know, be able to use this, because I know a lot of people, they get so tied up on the money aspect, and I'm like, for me, before I even came across my team, you know, not to get off on the tangent, but before I came across my team, I used to worry about that a lot until I had to start thinking about, okay, how can I do this and be effective in ways that don't cost me anything? And if people started thinking more that way, you know, they would realize, like, you know, Hollywood uses the big boy toys, and I won't say they throw away millions of dollars, but, you know, they spend millions upon millions on tiny little things because they can, not because it makes the movie better. So.
Wow, that's deep. That is deep, because I've actually seen some very, very creative individuals film stuff with their cell phone.
Very much.
Just with their cell phone, and it's like, what camera did you use? What did you use? And they're like, oh, I just used my iPhone. I just used my Android. And I'm like, interesting. Right. Interesting.
Right.
So, Ty, what advice would you give somebody that's watching right now who wants to get in the same field of becoming a cinematographer? They're struggling, and they're trying to build a team, and they just don't know what steps that they can actually take, and they really don't have the money. What advice would you give them?
Start with your purpose for doing it, and, you know, just really cling to it regardless of what life throws at you. And I don't say that from a place of self-righteousness either, because I've struggled with that many times, but I just it was so ingrained in me. Like, I think, you know, like, God wanted me to see this because it was like a hunch that hit me, and it was like in the back of my mind, I could not stop seeing myself doing it. And you need that, because that's going to propel you through those times when you don't have money, or when everything in life seems to be attempting to stop you. That's number one. Before you get into any of the actual, like, filmmaking work, just establish that purpose really for why you're doing it, because that purpose is what's going to carry you through the times that you're going to want to quit. Or, you know, say that you go through a hardship, and, you know, I've known other people who've done this, and they've had all their equipment stolen, or they've had equipment broken, or they've had somebody rob them for it, or, you know, they've gotten a injury, and so then when you look at, okay, how do I get started in this, you know, filmmaking wise? Start where you are, and when it comes to looking for a team, pray, because I prayed for this and receive what God gives you and be I guess for me the one thing that sticks out to me is you know, my pastor pours a lot into me, but I was getting from a lot of different sources at the time, you know. Forgive me for not knowing the exact scripture, but you know, when you can steward well over few, you know, he'll make you ruler over many. And I think that kind of encompasses when you look for a team or when you're looking to form a team, you know, serve well those that you're with. You're going to go through frustrations. You're going to butt heads. You may not even like each other at times. You may misunderstand each other for a long time. But then, you know, those just become the people you go to war with. And when you say go to war with, that just means like when y'all step on set, you know, you're going to war with life that's trying to stop you from making this great movie that you all have a vision for.
Ooh,
and
man,
I just think that you know, I say that because it sounds cliche, but like before I had my team and when I just first started looking at doing this craft, I thought that I was gonna just go the Hollywood route where I see all the politics are and the you know, people double cross each other and you know, it gets real ugly. And I thought that everybody I worked with had to be some super expert at everything, and I had to have I thought I had to have all these big boy toys to make it happen. And you know, I would say once you pull off a great production with like only what you have, the sky's the limit. You know, for us, like, and I can use an example. For us, when we did the council, we didn't have really any of our own equipment. Everything was rented, and that was also what made things hard for us because we had to crank things out because we only had things rented for a certain amount of time. So the camera was rented. I had never used that camera before. The lenses we had, you know, were borrowed, and they weren't the same kind of lenses, so they didn't like match. So that was something that had to be done later in editing. I didn't really have any film lighting at all. Actually, I had zero. I used hand-me-down lights from one of my uncles who's deceased. You know, rest in peace, Uncle Jerry. But he left, you know, some photography lights, and they were these old school ones. They got real hot, and they would sometimes like smoke. And
I had the same lights.
Yeah. And so, you know, and I share this not to go off on a tangent, but just that I know that like there's probably other people out there that are like they get discouraged because they think, man, I don't have what they have, or I don't have what I see the YouTubers and what they're using, and you know, I wish I could use lights that big, or I wish I could use these hundreds and $1,000 pieces of equipment and whatnot. But I say that to say, like, my tripod that we had in the council was broken. The gimbal that I used the camera for, half the time the battery went out. So half the time I was like holding it, like steadying shots as best as I could. We had frustrations with one another at each time, and I say that to just like show our growth. All kinds of things popped up. Like if people really knew the backstory on what happened on that first set and what's happened on many, like you said, they see the smiles and whatnot. But I mean, I say that that's the most important thing to realize is that those things are supposed to happen. Those things are going to happen. So now, yeah, we still get frustrated, but you know, smile through it, and you know, or just go somewhere and cool off and come back and then get right back to it and just recognize why you're doing it. You love it. It's fun, and continue having a vision for like, you know, that one film that you're going to do one day. That's just going to be that epic masterpiece. And, you know, you just kind of keep that in your sights, and it just continues to propel you and propel you and propel you. Notice I didn't say much about like what you should actually do filmmaking wise, because once you do all that and you have that vision in your mind, everything else kind of comes naturally. I mean, I could tell you guys, like,
flow. It's gonna flow.
Right. I could tell you guys, hey, go get this camera, go get this equipment, and go get this and that and use this. But truth be told, is like if your heart and your spirit is not right, then it's gonna sit and waste away in your closet anyway. If you're not really for it. So
Wow, Ty. Ty is taking us to church on here today, and I love it. I love it.
it's just coming
Because
from a real
without
place.
God, I mean, the last person I spoke to on here mentioned God too. So it is very important that we look to God first before we make that next move in our lives. And he will guide you with your gifts. And sometimes we'll have a gift that we don't know we have. And if you just stand still, he'll move you if you speak to him. He just wants you to talk to him. So
Definitely.
I'm glad you guys both, since I've been interacting with these lives, spoken about our Heavenly Father, and I love it. I love it.
Definitely.
I love it.
Definitely. He you know, if I wasn't obedient to him, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, because that's literally what it was. I mean, I put it this way, since you asked the question of, you know, people who want to know how to get started or they might be frustrated, I put it this way: before I started, I wasn't just coming out of a deep depression. I mean, I was coming out of suicidal times, and like suicidal times where I wasn't even just making sense of like everyday activities. So I mean, thinking about cameras and cinematography was nowhere near what I could worry about. And I felt like at that time it was like, you know, God telling me, okay, no, like, stop what you're doing. You ain't gonna die. Look, go be patient and sit down somewhere. I got something for you. Just wait. And then all of a sudden it was like that day that it happened, like I told you, it just hit me kind of like a hunch. And I was like, you know, I want to go get a camera. And I found a way to do it. I found a way to get one from my school. And that's why I say too, like, if you have the purpose and the passion, you'll find a way to do everything else. There was no roadmap for how I did it. I literally was just like, okay, well, I'm a senior in school now and I can't change my major. Otherwise I'll be in school for 3 more years and I can't afford that. So maybe I can get in some film classes. You know, no, I can't afford to fit those in right now because I'm working. So what else can I do? Well, there's always YouTube. There's always the library. And then, you know, they always say, you know, to hide things from Black people, put it in a book, right? I was surprised. I went to the library and there were so many books on like film and cinematography and how to do this stuff. So I'm like taking pictures and scanning them and like taking this stuff home and studying it. And I'm like, even my friends were like, I have one close friend, he remembers my entire journey, but even my other friends were kind of like, you really obsessed with that stuff, you know? And I'm like, yeah, you know, or they would invite me out places and I'm like, yeah, no, y'all go ahead. And I'm just, I mean, I remember being up like, you know, middle of the night, like just studying this stuff and just fascinated. And before I had a camera, I was just using my phone. So that's why I say, like, start with where you are and then just continue to just focus on like what you really want to get out of it. You know, say you want to make your first movie, you know, just treat it like the law of attraction. Things will come to you, you know, and if you stay diligent, you know, and obedient, you know, God will remove things out of your path and things will come. It will seem like certain things will take forever. And I don't say none of this from a place of self-righteousness, because there be times when I struggle with being patient as well. And the same things I'm telling y'all, you know, I've struggled with. So that's the only reason I can say it. I'm not saying it from like, you know, to try to sound like a parent or something, but just get excited about it. And when you get excited about it, you just naturally want to discover more. You know, I was searching up every YouTube channel I could find. Then I was like, okay, let me go on eBay and see if anybody has like cheap old stuff they're throwing out, or maybe you'll come across, you know, I would be on sets with people, and I remember like I came across a guy who was like throwing away like old camera gear, and I happened to like be able to get some. It didn't last me very long, but you know, it was something, and I was excited. So it's like, I just think that kind of being resourceful is how you stumble across this stuff, and you really just kind of naturally find your way. And I think, you know, if more people just understood that their struggle is not unique, that everybody is going through that struggle, everybody feels confused, everybody feels lost, everybody is looking at what they see on TV, and then they're attempting to film, and they're like, why can't my stuff look like that? Like, just continue.
Not knowing what that person went through to get there.
And I would say too that sometimes if you look at somebody who is kind of on the arrogant Hollywood status, feeling themselves too much, you know, or feels like they're too good for you, then don't learn from that person, because usually those people, you know, their karma will bring them down. So
yeah. We know. We get a lot of that. And it's real. It is so real. So you guys understand that being obedient while you're moving in your journey with God and just starting to allow him to walk you through the steps. He will grab you and place you where you need to be. He made you. So stop running from what God is designed in you to become. We sometimes don't see it, and sometimes we close our eyes. But if we allow the power inside of us to just listen to what God has and let him show you internal production in yourself, then you will be on the right path to success. Whether you're rich or not is valuable. You're valuable. As I said, once again, be obedient and let God guide you, and everything else will fall in place. So with saying that, we're going to go ahead, and I know we're going to have to wrap this up because Mr. Mills is a very busy individual. But before we do, I do want to let him share what's coming up next with him with the Las Vegas Black Film Festival 10th year anniversary, and then he'll close it out with where you can reach him if you want to book him, if you want to take some of his classes, etc., etc. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic, the invisible mic, over to Tyre. Go ahead.
Thank you. I, you know, first things first, before I get into that, I just want to say, you know, thank you, Lynn, for having me on here. Thank you again for reaching out last year, also for, you know, the support. You know, like I said, that was my first class last year. So, you know, I'm glad that it's grown to this. And, you know, what you're doing here is also very important because, you know, whether you realize it or not, you know, this sometimes is like what some people need to, you know, reignite that spark in them. And the questions you're asking are things, too, that other people out there, they really thirst to hear answers for. You know, because when you're an artist and also you're an indie artist, you know, a lot of times you feel like you're the only one in the world doing this. And you come across other creatives and everybody is very, you know, humble and whatnot, but people don't get to share a lot of times the struggles they're dealing with behind the scenes. So, but outside of that, very soon, April 22nd, I'll be at the Las Vegas Black Film Festival. Actually, before I get to that, April 20th, our newest feature film, Heart and Soul, will be premiering at the Las Vegas Black Film Festival as the premiere opener of the festival. And we're going to really start it off with a bang. I'm excited. Miss Michelle's excited. My entire team is excited. We're going to be there for that. The following day, Friday, our short film, Sick Puppy, will also be screening there. And then Saturday, April 22nd, I'll be teaching the cinematography masterclass for you guys. So for anybody who wants to become more effective at this, and that's the key word, effective. There's going to be a lot of techniques and things you see in the class, but the key to remember is it's just about being effective and efficient. And, you know, I don't own any of this stuff. I'm a student of it. You know, I say that time and time again because Miss Michelle likes to refer to me as a master, and I can't claim that title because I'm just a student and I study it. And I think in order to continue to be great at things, you have to remain, you know, in the place of a student and willing to learn. So I'm just imparting on y'all, you know, what I've learned, and I hope that it assists people in, you know, making their own productions better in any way that they possibly can. Because just about everything that I'll be teaching that day will be things that anybody can employ regardless of what their budget is. And it should be able to take any film, you know, to a place of being able to not just be selected for festivals, but also win awards. And, you know, I just hope to help people learn these techniques and learn this film language, because then it becomes more fun. Because then when you can speak the language, you know, it's like going into a foreign country, you can't speak the language, it's going to be a very frustrating time. But when you can speak the language and you get along with a whole nother people, you know, now the world of that country is your oyster. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And I thank you for having me on here. My Instagram is at milsuave44. I'll put it in the chat right now. Well, I mean, you guys obviously can probably see, but for anybody who doesn't have it, let me see. There it is in the chat. You can also find me at my website, www.milsuave.wixsite.com. And any of my other links that you'd like to check out are also in my Instagram bio for films or my IMDb. At IMDb, I'm just Tyre Mills. That's Tyre, last name Mills. And yeah, you can also search my team at Rider for Life Films on Instagram, Facebook, any platform. You can check out our website. You can check out our films. We have films on Amazon, Tubi, Apple TV. And lastly, our podcast, The Patio Politics, which is currently where I'm broadcasting from in the studio right now. And yeah, you know, we just love to help people through this, and you know, we love to help other people, you know, reach their goals as well. So that's I believe that's it. I think I covered everything that you asked. You know, looking forward to Vegas, and I hope to bring everything this year. I'm not gonna bring just 10%. I'm gonna bring all.
We don't hope. We don't hope.
We're gonna do.
Ty, there we go.
We're gonna do.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Where does Suave come from?
Well,
I had to ask.
It's funny. That name I actually didn't come up with. That name, somebody called me. I used to shoot this music show in Hollywood with a lot of like emerging artists that are popular now, but like before they became popular. And I was the videographer at the venue, and it was kind of like I don't know. I'm trying to give like a movie reference. Basically, everybody there was in the music or in the industry or in some kind of entertainment role, and everybody had a nickname. And I never really went by anything other than my name. But some people struggle with my first name, so they would just call me by my last name. And then
like I did earlier.
Yeah, they would call me Mills. And then
we called him Miller and not Mills.
And so, you know, and people would struggle with it at times. And so then some people that were there that I went to college with, who knew that I was a new member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, they would call me Suave. And then like when they got on the microphone, sometimes after shows, they would just give shout outs to people, and they would say, shout out to Mills, Suave. And they would say, shout out to Mills Suave. And eventually I was just like, all right, well, I mean, I guess if everybody's calling me by it, then I'll just embrace it. And people started calling me by it back then. That's how I got it originally.
They said Ty is smooth and sweet. He's mellow. He's chill. I just had to ask because I seen it and I was like, he doesn't have his last name on his Instagram. See the Suave, and I asked Ty.
Oh, yeah,
now everybody gets to know the answer to
that
question. They do, and you guys know that you got an amazing, talented, well-rounded individual sitting right before us, and he is definitely doing great things in the community, and I am impressed with him, and we need to again support his platforms, support his films. If you guys want to buy the film or go take the seminar or hire him for a seminar, and I do believe you are for hire, right?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So y'all got somebody right here who knows his craft, knows what he's doing, will definitely conduct a amazing seminar at any of the events that you're doing at a film festival or library, art gallery, private party. Here's your guy. So let's go ahead and leave them with this. An amazing statement that will inspire, and I know we only got like maybe not even a minute, that will inspire the hearts of those who want to get into film. And we're going to close it out like
a quote. Okay. Yeah. Be relentless. Be relentless. Don't strive to do your best. Strive to be the best. And you know, if you move like that, it's like you can't. There's nothing that can really stop you. Just be relentless.
And that's how we're going to close this live today, tonight, or whatever time it is in your state, country, or town. And we will definitely be following Tyre all the way through his journey. So you guys, thank you for the love. Thank you for being here, Mr. Mills. And till we meet again, till we speak again, may God continue to bless you and keep exceeding in your journey. Shouts out to Miss Michelle with the Las Vegas Black Film Festival. You are a queen and you are working with a king. God bless.
We love you, Michelle. Thank you too, Lynn.
You're very welcome.